Hello, and welcome to Tome of Uselessness. I'm Devon.
I'm Dan.
And today we are talking about the Marvel universe.
Yeah, so it's like the 2021 Marvel catch-up.
Yeah, we're a little bit behind on our Marvel chats for reasons, probably due to me.
Well, and scheduling, we both got ill, and we were talking about other things. Like, yeah, we're going to talk about all these, which I'm happy.
But before we get into it, Dan, did you like anything this week?
I do have a few things I like. Yeah, I mentioned them to you off a mic, but I finished Directorate S, which was a nonfiction book written by Stephen Cole, and I've mentioned him previously when I talked about Ghost Wars. And this one, it's the same topic, which is war in Afghanistan, but in this time it goes from basically September 11th, 2001 up to 2012, 2014 kind of era, into a little bit into 2016. But yeah, it's just basically about America and NATO's involvement in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and war in general in that kind of region. It was, again, incredibly well researched and documented and in depth and incredibly depressing.
Yep, sounds depressing.
Yeah, but what a great read. I highly recommend reading both of them. But yeah, just like some of the stories and some of the stuff is just insanity. We were like, dude, it's just so bad. Like, especially when he starts getting into the 2008 stuff with the financial crash and the global economy essentially tanking. And then they're just like, yeah, but we're going to pour trillions more into this war for reasons. But anyway, that was good. I also just finished, actually just last night, a book called The Last Emperox by John Scalzi. It was a science fiction book. I think it was a trilogy. I don't know if he's going to continue it. It sort of wraps up, so I assume it was wrapped, but it was open-ended enough that it could continue. But it was basically, about space empire, and it was going to collapse. And really cool stuff. I think these ones, like, I wouldn't say that they were YA particularly, but they were like a little, like, they were a little for meatball. No, they were more they were just easier reads, right? Like, just pretty, you could just cruise right through them, and they weren't high page counts. I think the last one was 360 page count. The other ones were like 3 something. So good reads. I enjoyed them a lot, and I've enjoyed some of the stuff this guy's written. So also recommend that trilogy. Was fun.
Meatball, you have to be quiet if you're going to stay in here. Deal? Go sleep. Go curl up on the bed. Okay, he's quiet for now.
Sure. And then I also read Coldest City, which was a graphic novel that Atomic Blonde was loosely based on.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was neat. It was different, of course, and had some more characters because it's a comic book, and a different ending. Do you remember Atomic Blonde? How at the end she meets that Russian guy, and they talk about an agent called Satchel.
Yeah.
In the comic book, she is a double agent for the Russians and just leaves into Russia at the end.
All right.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, oh, okay, wasn't expecting that. Because in that, at the end of that movie, she's like, hey, I was, triple agenting and everything was fake, and then she murders them all. And then the last thing I'll mention was from DC's Black Label. It was Joker/Harley Criminal Insanity, and it was an 8-issue collection that I bought because I don't buy comics regularly. And it was good. It was basically Harley Quinn, or Dr. Quinn. She was a GCPD like profiler, and the Joker, it was kind of like a semi-origin in that he was becoming a budding like serial killer, and his killings became more artistic and more flamboyant, and at the end he was going to, spoilers, murder a stadium of people. So she's working with the cops to try to like stop him and stuff like that. It was good. I really enjoyed it, and I've never read anything from the DC Black Label before, and I guess its selling point is that it's mostly black and white, except for in this version the color pages were more either the Joker stuff, or when, like I was saying to you, like his makeup would be colorized and everything else would be black and white. So
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, it gives it a different style. And yeah, I enjoyed it. And I think they're meant to be a little more for an adult audience versus just a general audience. Yeah, because it's the subject matter. Like he's disemboweling people and doing all sorts of crazy stuff where you're like, I think that would give a nightmare to a child.
It's like true crime. So obviously their demographic is middle-aged white women.
Yeah, basically. I mean, yeah, like in this, yeah, Harley Quinn, she's wearing like, yeah, leather jacket, jeans, and a shirt, and she's trying to solve the murder of her roommate from when she was like in early med school and stuff like that, right? So very much in that vein. But anyway, that was some stuff I enjoyed. What about yourself?
Okay, so everything that I liked are things that you also liked earlier.
Oh, cool.
So first, I'm almost finished reading Bad Blood, which is, I'm pretty sure you brought it up on the podcast, but it's the story of Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos. Is that what it's called?
Theranos, yeah.
Theranos, yeah. Which is just incredibly well written and well researched and insane to read. And like every page, you're like, why are they making the worst possible decision on everything?
Yep.
Especially okay, I'm not a scientist, believe it or not. And I'm not a tech person, and I don't have any experience with like a startup, but I have managed small businesses and been a manager for chains and stuff. And every managerial decision they make is so bad.
Yeah.
I'm just like, wow, they woke up, they thought of the worst possible thing, and then they did it.
Well, and not to derail what you're going to talk about, but I guess I should also mention, unless you're going to mention it, the Folding Ideas Line Goes Up video.
Yeah, I was going to mention it.
Okay, never mind then, because I was going to say, like, yeah, it's these people that think because they can solve something else that they're like, I'll be good at this as well. And it's like, no, you suck.
Yep. Nope. The next thing is I just finished listening to the book How Fascism Works, which you recommended and also I'm pretty sure talked about. And
it's good, right?
So good. It's so good. And the guy that reads it sounds a bit like George Clooney.
Gives it that flair.
He actually sounds like if George Clooney was doing a really lackluster Matthew McConaughey impression.
But in the good way.
But in a good way, yeah.
Right.
No, I really enjoyed it. It's scary that this is the world we live in. all my like recommendations are really bleak.
Sure. Like well, and one of mine was.
They're really well. Yeah. Okay. Fair. Yeah. They're like well written and interesting and stuff. But like, yeah. Sometimes I think I'll have to read something like that doesn't make me think that everything is bad.
Well, and this is why my scheme is usually I read like a nonfiction and then a fiction book.
Oh, that's
it just gives you that. Yeah.
I'm still reading the Book of Dust. I haven't finished it yet, but I got sidetracked because I was like read the first sentence of Bad Blood and I was like, this is great.
Yeah, and I at the end of the book, like he writes for, was it the Wall Street Journal or the Economist or something like that? Anyway, yeah, like you could tell, sort of like in that Michael Lewis, the guy who writes like who's written like a ton of like financial books, like he used to be a reporter as well, so it's like he can research and write concise, totally. And you know it's just so good when you read something like that. And yeah, like a story of like that startup company and everything, and you're just like, how did this, oh my gosh, people.
You know, the without like spoiling too much for people who haven't read it, the part that like, I mean, there's a lot of heartbreaking parts, but like the part where Elizabeth Holmes had recruited somebody from Apple, and she gave up 15,000 shares of Apple to go work for this like fake company. I was just like, I'm like, oh, when she must have realized what was going on, that would be just, it would be like a gut punch.
Sure, of course.
Like, by the way, you could have been a millionaire. but instead, you get nothing.
Instead, bad blood.
Yeah. And then my third thing was the folding ideas video Line Goes Up, which is about NFTs. It's like 2 hours and 15 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
And you should watch it if you are remotely interested in what an NFT is, because he explains things in a really concise and entertaining manner.
Yeah, I definitely, after we spoke about it, after I watched it again.
I think I watched it at least 2.5 times now.
Yeah, I watched it twice, and it was just funny because I think, like I was talking with you, is that it confirmed that to me that I was like, wow, NFTs are a scam. But two, that they took it further than I even thought. I thought initially when it was announced, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. It's like you have a digital token attached to a digital piece of art, proving that you have the ownership and own that piece of art. And I was like, okay, that shows you have the original, not like some copy and pasted version. Cool. But then it's like, yeah, no, I was like, oh, this spiraled totally out of that, and it's terrible.
Yep.
And I totally agree. His video on it is amazing.
It's so, I love his like research style, and I love his like the way he lays things out is really well done.
Mm-hmm.
Like he starts the video with the 2008 economic crash.
Yes.
Which is like a really good place to start. And then he explains what like Bitcoin is, and then it goes into NFTs, and it's like it holds your, I could see it being entertaining if you knew what NFTs were, but it's at a level where even if you have no concept of what they are, like going into it, I just thought that people were selling digital art. I didn't really know what an NFT was.
Well, sure.
I'm still not entirely sure what an NFT is, but I still really enjoyed the video.
Yeah, and like I was pretty much at that level too. I thought it was just all digital art stuff, and then it was like, no, they're actually trying to use them to like raise capital, like a Kickstarter, and I was like, oh, that's not what those should be at all.
Yeah, totally.
But yes, he has a really great style. And
then once you watch that one, then you can go watch all of his other videos, because he's on like a pretty good hot streak right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went back and watched a couple, and one that I hadn't watched before was the one about cooking for fun on the internet, as he called it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, I'm glad you recommended it to me.
You've seen the wall one, right?
I watched it after we spoke about it, and yes, okay. It was hilarious.
So he critiques, so the Nostalgia Critic did a parody of Pink Floyd's The Wall, that's kind of also a criticism of Pink Floyd's The Wall, but also they claim it's also like a tribute to The Wall.
Yeah, that's what he's always like, it's like a tribute to The Wall, and it's like, is it?
Which part? Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dan Olson just breaks it down, and it was, I mean, like my favorite part of the video is all of it, but my favorite part is when he goes. He's like, I'm going to have to be unkind. And then he's like, Doug Walker is fundamentally uncurious and uncreative. He just like proceeds to like give him the sickest burn, but in the most eloquent and like almost academic way possible.
Sure, and I think like I've mentioned before, that's one of my favorite things when he was talking about the chicken tenders, and he's like, yeah, blah, 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 and he's like, yeah, because Jamie Oliver is classist, and I was like, holy jeez, this video's taking a turn.
Oh, that's a good video too.
Yeah, very good. But yeah, Line Goes Up, I agree, recommend that.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on, because we have 4 Marvel projects to cover.
Sure, and yeah, we'll
to be 4 hours long.
No, yeah, we'll breeze through. We'll breeze through some, and then we can talk further about the one you really want to talk about the most.
Hawkeye.
Well, definitely, that was your fave.
Obviously.
But okay. Yeah, we're gonna start back with Shang-Chi, Legend of the Ten Rings.
I liked it. Next. No.
I also really liked it. I liked it a lot. I enjoyed it far more than I thought I was going to going in.
Yeah, I was like, I guess because I'm a millennial and a lot of my formative years took place between like 95 and 2005, like that decade.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me was like, oh no. They're gonna do what sort of weird yellow face, like incredibly insensitive Asian movie are they gonna make? But it wasn't that bad. It was pretty good. But I was worried.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think by 2021 when it finally came out, but yeah, by like say 2018 or whatever, when they started start working on it, they knew, of the mistakes of the past, and we're like, okay, let's not do that. We have access.
Let's not get Mickey Rourke to play Mickey. Yeah, Mickey. Who is in? Now I'm confused. I've confused myself. You know the movie Breakfast at Tiffany? Is that Mickey Rourke or Mickey Rooney?
Probably Rooney, because I don't think Rourke was in that.
Okay. Yeah, he was like a comedian, right?
Yes.
So have you seen Breakfast at Tiffany's?
No.
She has an upstairs neighbor who is Japanese, and it was played by a white guy who's a comedian, and they put in comically like large front teeth to make him look bucktooth, and they like taped his eyes so they looked Asian, I guess.
Yeah, that's no good.
Kind of made him a little bit of a pervert.
Yeah, no good.
So none of that in this movie. We've progressed since the 40s or 50s or whenever the fuck that was made.
Yeah, they progressed and then they cast a Canadian guy.
Nice.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was Canadian.
Yeah, he was well, at least I'm pretty sure, because he was on that Kim's convenience store.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he was like the main guy in that.
Man, he is a really good actor.
Yeah, I think so as well. His name is Simi Liu, of course, that we're talking about, who plays Shang-Chi.
He's very charming and charismatic on screen.
Yeah, and then him and Awkwafina were really great together.
Yeah, they had a really fun dynamic.
Yes. And yeah, it was cool. Before he was cast in Shang-Chi, he's got a lot of knowledge in martial arts already. Apparently Taekwondo, gymnastics, and Wing Chun. And then he also trained Tai Chi, Wushu, Muay Thai, Krav Maga, some Jiu-Jitsu and boxing as well for the film.
Oh, nice.
I think because the stunt guys who helped design the fights and stuff like that, they were on the corridor crew, and basically like any movie like of this, it's heavily inspired by Jackie Chan, of course, and Jet Li, and like the bus fight, that's all Jackie. So they were like, he had to be able to move like that, right?
Yeah. The fight scenes in this movie were so good.
Mm-hmm.
They were as good as the fight scenes were bad in Jolt.
It's like an inverse scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting because it was directed by a guy named Destin Daniel Cretton, which I haven't heard of him before, but I thought, for me, the movie looks good, shot good. I think, again, when they were talking about the stunt guys, like Marvel put a lot of money into this, 150 million to 200's the reporting. So, they had the ability to build like that bus on a set, and then they actually, crashed a real bus outside for the garbage truck part and stuff like that. So like any project, you put the time and money in and it can look really good. Like for me, the water map effect and the water effects in this movie were really good.
Oh yeah, they looked great. Like the only issue I had with it was that I watched it on Disney Plus on our home TV. And I don't think that our TV was good enough to support the graphics, because sometimes it did look a little weird, like flat and sloppy.
Bummer.
But I didn't think it was because that's how it actually was. I think it was because it was only available in 4K and we don't have a 4K TV.
Right.
Yeah. Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll get to my issue with the movie really, but I guess I want to go back to the beginning and how it starts with Tony Chiu Wai Leung, who plays Wenwu
Hmm.
and plays the Mandarin.
Yeah, he's
And
great.
I thought, yeah, like when he's first initially shown, like he has screen presence, and I was like, I believe this guy as this immortal warlord.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. And I liked how, yeah, they changed the rings because in the comics, the Mandarin literally wears rings, and this they changed them to like martial arts bracelets because that you've seen that in other films and stuff like Kung Fu Hustle,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know. So I don't know. I thought it worked. It worked for me, and I really liked it, and the way they were used in the fights and like his motions and his jumping and everything like that. I thought it was really cool usage and effects with the rings.
I agree.
Well, then there we go. Were
Um,
you expecting the Ben Kingsley?
so when I watched it, it had been out for a while, and I heard that he was in it.
Right.
So
I wasn't. Okay.
I wouldn't have expected it if somebody didn't just flat out tell me.
Sure. And before I went to watch it, I did watch on Disney Plus. They have the little short, like Hail to the King, I think it is.
Hmm.
So I watched that, and it's like he gets busted out of prison, and I was like, okay, cool. And then he showed up in the movie. I was like, oh, okay. Like I didn't know.
I thought that they had a lot of marketable toy ideas with all the cool creatures.
Sure. This was actually something I pulled out of the IMDb trivia. So again, could be hearsay here or anything, but so when they pitched the idea of Morris, the like six-legged winged creature without a face,
Yeah.
to Feige, they were like, he's not gonna go for that. And he was like, yeah, that sounds cool, totally cool, do that. And then they were like, okay, whatever. This is not gonna make it to the final edit. And they made a bet between the two guys, Cretton, sorry, the director, and a man, Dave Callahan. So I assume was, into the effects creature design. That he was like, if it makes it all the way to the movies, like I'll get a tattoo. And then apparently on the commentary, he's like, I haven't gotten the tattoo yet because of COVID.
Nice.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of a funny story. They were like, yeah, this is way too weird. But they were like, no, that's cool.
Who doesn't like weird?
Yeah. Yeah, all these Asian inspired creatures, and they're starting to do some weird.
Yeah. I like that Disney's getting into magic. It's cool. Or Marvel's getting into magic.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. It's good. Did you have anything you didn't like about the movie? And is it the same thing I didn't like about the movie?
I don't know. Before I get to that, though, I do want to mention his sister,
Oh, yeah.
Ming Zhang is her name.
She's not been in anything
No, yeah.
except this. Because I
Yeah.
looked her up when I was watching the movie. I'm like, she's very cool. What is she from? And just nothing. She's just from life.
Yeah, I thought she was great. And again, great chemistry with the cast and just how, like, that character was used and, like, they're like, okay, well, this is going to have to, where are we going to, and then she's just like, oh, I got this thing over here. Or like kind of thing. I got the solution already. I mean, it could be considered lazy writing, but I also liked it and that she's competent and kicking ass on her own.
Totally. Could you imagine that being your first like major role?
Well, it's the same like Simu Liu as well. It's his first major role.
Yeah, but you said he was in Kim's Convenience?
Yeah,
That was a pretty beloved show.
sure, but it's like,
But she came from like, she has like no credits aside from this movie.
yeah, I mean, it'd be hard, but you could also.
It's like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm an actor. Oh, would I have recognized you from anything? Oh, I've only been in one movie. Oh yeah, what was it? A Marvel movie.
Yeah,
I'm
and
a
not
main
just
character in a Marvel movie.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Not just like a bit player. It's like, no, I was the third character of the movie.
Yeah.
Apparently, the fight set in Macau, that was an actual set that they built. It wasn't a small set on a soundstage, it was on a soundstage, but you know what I mean. They actually built it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, comparatively to so many things nowadays, where you don't have to build like a quarter of it and then just CGI the rest.
Yeah. No, that's cool that they did the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I guess brief run through the story. 10 rings. Sean ran away from home. Then he's, called back to action. Dad wants him back because he's hearing the voice of his mom. who's dead, and then chaos ensues. And
Oh yes, chaos.
yeah, they get to the Tylo, the magical city in the other dimension, and this was where my problem comes in the movie, because at the end of the movie, yeah, spoilers for, of course, all this, but Shang-Chi is fighting his dad, and they're having the showdown in front of the gate that protects from the creature from the outworld, whatever they call it, the Devourer, I think, because his dad's trying to knock down the gate because he's trying to unleash get his mom back.
He's crazy.
Yeah, trying to get the soul of his mom back. They fight. Great fight, emotional, good choreography, good ring stuff and everything. And at the same time, there's creatures that have been escaping, and then the villagers and Katie are fighting them, and Shang-Chi's sister are fighting. Michelle Yeoh's there as well, kicking ass.
Yeah, she's so great.
And then when he finally kind of defeats his dad, I was like, wow, cool. And then a giant creature busts out, and then there's just CGI gobbledygook for the next 20 minutes. And it was great CGI gobbledygook, don't get me wrong. But I was really hoping they'd save that Outworld Devourer for the next movie. Because
I agree.
The movie felt so complete at that moment.
Yep.
I was like, yeah, you could save that for just like a post-credit that, they defeat the creatures that got away with the help of the dragon. And, they stopped. Some people did lose their souls, unfortunately, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, yeah, you show the gate, it's rumbling a little more, and that's the end of the movie, or that's the mid-credit sequence, and you're like, oh, maybe that'll get out in the next movie.
Yeah, I know, it was a little bit rushed to just have it. I felt.
Yeah, and again, nothing like that. It didn't not look good. Like, it looked great and everything, and it was like, the rings with the sister, and she's got I don't even know what the name of that weapon is, but the dagger with the rope. And
the rope dagger.
The rope dagger. No, you know what I mean. It's got an official name.
Yeah, wasn't that used a lot in? It wasn't Hero. It was the other one. What movie was that? Remember, there was 10 movies that came out in North America right after Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Sure.
House of Flying Daggers. That's what
right.
It was. I had to go through them briefly in my mind.
Yeah, and that's a minor knock that I was just this movie up to that point was on a lower, simpler scale, and it's like this family battle, and I was like, cool.
Yeah, no, I still really enjoyed it, but I agree that they didn't need to have the dad was the end battle. They didn't need to have another one after it.
Yeah.
Okay, next thing.
Sure. Oh, well, real quick, I just wanted to say it's interesting because the box office, it made $432.2 million, but this was released, of course, pandemic times.
Mm-hmm.
It's considered more of a success, I think, comparatively to the next thing I assume we're going to talk about, the Eternals, even though they almost made the same amount of money.
Oh, really? The Eternals wasn't considered a success?
I don't know. It seems to have a mixed reception, I think.
That's fair. I could see that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Eternals.
Sure. Well, real quick, sorry, Shang-Chi, I really like the score.
It was
composed by Joel P. West. It was, like you said, it had a good mix of Western and Eastern elements. I assume. Yeah, let's move on because I'll just keep talking about it.
Yep. I'm keeping us on track because I got a lasagna in the oven.
Copy that.
That's what we should call this episode. I got a lasagna in the oven.
I'll make sure I put that in the description.
Thank you.
So yeah, Eternals came out afterwards, directed by Chloe Zhao. She also wrote it with three other people, sorry. So she was heavily involved, and she was actually going to she had a pitch for something else they wanted to maybe get her involved with. Now I can't remember. And then she didn't get that job. It was a Marvel job. And then she pitched the Eternals, in her idea, and they were like, yeah, do that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and they spent about the same amount of money, $200 million, on this movie.
I believe it. So it's most of that going to pay the actors because it had a pretty big cast.
Yeah, I'm unsure about that because, again, I think 99% of this movie has a CG shot, so they spent a lot of money on that too.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I liked the Eternals, but I did think that the first half hour was kind of slow and kind of I don't know. It took a bit for me to get into it. I watched it with Tony, my husband, and Peter, my brother,
Mhm.
and Dave would not fucking shut up for the first like 45 minutes because they were bored. So they just kept making fun of the movie. And then I had to pause it and I was like, I actually want to watch this. You guys keep talking and we're gonna talk about it on the podcast. So like should I watch it another time? And they're like, no, no, no. And then kind of at that like half hour, 45-minute point is when they started, like when the movie picked up and they started to enjoy it. And then they shut up so I could actually hear what was going on.
Fair enough. Yeah, I also I saw it in theater, and unfortunately for me, when I saw it in theater, there was a light problem with the theater, and so for the first about half hour until I got up to say something, because I was like, surely someone will notice and fix this, but no one did. The blacks were all super washed out, so I could barely see what was even happening in the beginning London attack sequence.
Nice. Oh, you know what? Honestly, I could barely see what was happening in that sequence too.
Fair enough.
It was just very dark.
Yeah. Anyway, and then so yeah, basically up to the point where they're in Babylon, that's when I went and said something. I was like, "Hey, you know your lights are broken," and then like two people had to come in to try to fix it. Anyway,
Oh, man. Causing
yeah.
problems.
No, I wanted to see the movie.
Causing problems.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think like you were saying off mic that it was like, you know, they were trying a different kind of origin thing. Like we haven't seen really scrolling text starts in a movie before, I don't think, in a Marvel one. Maybe
don't
I'm
like
wrong.
a scrolling text to start.
See, I don't mind a scrolling text, mainly because I'm probably primed for it from like Star Wars, Blade Runner, and all that kind of stuff like that, where it's just like, yeah, here's a little exposition before we get going, so it's not a character has to turn to the screen and be like, as you know, we come from 5,000 years ago.
Yeah, but I think there's enough context clues that I could have picked it up because I didn't really read it anyways.
Fair enough.
Remember when Alita Battle Angel starts with scrolling text and I was like, I'm gonna fucking hate this movie.
That's fair, yeah.
That wasn't even scrolling text. I think it just said like the city name and a date, and I was like, nope.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, you can't take me anywhere, Dad.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, I also really enjoyed the movie. I really liked a lot of the design and the way their powers all looked and everything. I thought was really great. Again, they spent the money on it, like all the gold filigree and everything. Even when Cersei's using her powers to change like, you know, rocks to sand or that bus into like butterflies or whatever, like it was so seamlessly and well done. And then I also really liked the display.
I totally agree, by the way. Visually, wonderful.
Yeah, the only thing I would have hoped was when they're in their Eternals costumes that the colors weren't as muted. I mean, I know that's kind of because it's more real world or Marvel's kind of style, but it's like, give us some color, yo.
That's fair. I did like how they kind of looked like cyber armor. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like it had a little bit of like a computery vibe, but also like an oldie-timey vibe.
Sure, absolutely. It looks almost like circuitry that's running through it. And even the scene when Ashram tells Cersei the whole plan and everything, and you see like the robotic guts of them underneath and stuff like that. It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I really liked when they're fighting and Makari is going all out with the speedster skills, and I really like that display and just like the cleverness, and also like when she's smashing Icarus into the rock like at 10,000 miles an hour. I was like, that's great.
Yeah, that was cool. Apparently, Peter was telling me that actress is from Walking Dead, and she's actually deaf in real life, so that was kind of cool too.
Yeah, I was also again pulled out of an IMDb fact, possibly here, that she had some troubles because, you know, you're fighting nothing a lot, and Angelina Jolie helped her with a laser pointer so she could know where to look.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, see, she credited coming up with that idea and helping her out that way because, yeah, if they're just like, yeah, you got to look at this thing over here.
what thing? Yeah.
Yeah. Like sound cues aren't going to work for her, of course, because like you said, she is deaf.
Yeah. It's cool to have characters that are like signing or like, differently abled and stuff. Because, me, I'm a fucking snowflake and I just want representation in movies.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this was something I was thinking of after you told me that, is that I know that in the Inhumans show they did, I think is it Black Bolt is his name? No, not Black Bolt. Black Adam? Oh, I think that's the DC character. Anyway, there's a character on there. His voice is so powerful that he just like, if he speaks, he basically murders people and knocks over buildings.
Nice.
So he has to use sign. And in the show, they like kind of came up with their own signing scheme. So like it's not like ASL or like anything like from Earth. Like, and I don't know if she was as well, because the one that he's doing in Inhumans, I watched sort of a breakdown of it, is like garbage. It's gibberish. So
it's like what they teach to gorillas, and then they're like, look, the gorillas know sign language, but if you ever like have an ASL speaker sign with them, they're like, this is gibberish.
Sure, yeah. So I mean, I don't know my sign languages very well, obviously, or not obviously, but I don't. But
obviously, no.
Well, I don't utilize it. I'm sorry. So anyway, I was just curious about that. Was she signing something of a known Earth sign language? Like, if a deaf person was watching that understood sign language, would they understand what she was signing? I don't know.
I hope so. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things that it's like, it's a detail, but then it's also because it's like, why would an Eternal from space use Earth sign language?
Well, why would an Eternal from space speak English?
That's what I was about to say. My next words. They're speaking English. Who cares?
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, so Cersei, as we've been mentioning, is our main character. Gemma Chan is the actress. And then we have Richard Madden, straight from Game of Thrones. Icarus. You got Angelina Jolie, who's Thena. Salma Hayek in there as Ajax, who's the leader until, spoiler, she dies off screen. Oh, no. Yeah. Kit Harington again is in there. And then I'm sure everyone had a good meta laugh at looking at two Game of Thrones characters saying, I love you, Cersei.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Kumail Nanjiani as Kingo, Leah McHugh as Sprite, and Brian Henry as Fastos. As mentioned, Lauren Ridloff as Makari. And this is this person, and I'm sorry to him and or Ezra Miller. I thought they were the same person. Barry Keoghan.
Oh, yeah.
As Druid.
You know what? We did too, so.
Yeah. I wasn't unsure the whole time. I was like, is that Ezra Miller? I don't think it is, but maybe I'm wrong. Because maybe he could be wearing a prosthetic or something, right? Unfortunately, Don Lee Gilgamesh, he's not in the movie very much. Karun Harish Patel was Kumail Nanjiani's butler there, and he was some good fun.
Oh, yeah, he was pretty great in it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, can you say the name again?
For who?
For the guy that had the butler, the actor's name?
Like Kumail Nanjiani?
The Bollywood guy?
Harish Patel.
Yeah. I'm really bad with names.
I'm clearly butchering them.
I can't say it, but he, as random fact, got really in shape for this movie.
Yes.
Got really buff. And the director didn't like it. She kind of wanted him to be more of an everyman.
Right.
But he was like, this is the first Indian superhero. I'm not going to just be like, I'm going to be buff for it.
Right. So, like not schlub, right?
Yeah. He's like, I'm going to get fit for it, the end.
Yeah, like I had heard that he really did get buff, and I've seen, a picture of him. And because I think, it's a running joke, of course. Like even in Shang-Chi, he does a scene without a shirt, right?
Yeah.
It's like you got to show them that they worked it out,
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you could tell because you could see his arms when he's wearing that vest in the Bollywood scene.
I know, they're like massive.
Yeah, they're super lean and like jacked, and you're like, yeah, he did it up. Yeah, I think it was. I liked it in the pitch meeting. They framed it as a joke that they're just like, hey, what if we made him all work out and then we just never showed him shirtless?
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, large cast, but I don't know. The movie's pretty long as well, 2.5 hours, I think it is. But it doesn't feel that bad. Like it's well paced, sort of. I think like you're saying there, maybe it was a little slower in the beginning, but I didn't really feel that because I was like, okay, it's just kind of explaining some stuff. But then it sort of falls on that like we have to just get everybody together, so they're just going to location kind of situation, which is pretty basic. And yeah, we get some
get
fun
the gang
stuff
together.
Yeah, we get some fun stuff here and there. I think it was just maybe I would have liked to have seen more stuff with them interacting with humanity throughout the history. I think that could have been more cool.
Oh, I would have liked less of that.
Really?
Yeah, I kind of find it boring.
Oh, interesting. Fair enough.
I was like, oh, who gives a shit? They helped people. What the fuck ever.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, or you could go that way with it and only show just the one scene in the beginning where she gives the dagger and then it transitions to London and then it's like, the dagger in a museum and you're like, okay, cool, we get it. They were there through history, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't like that. That would have been sufficient for me.
I think, the one at the, the massacre, it was important to show the breakup of the team.
Yeah, I also didn't really care that much.
Well, and that's part of it as well. I think it's like where is it pacing or how the team was being we didn't care if they broke up at that point. You're like, sure, whatever.
Like I honestly would have been fine if it was like one line of dialogue being like, we all went our separate ways at one point.
Right. And I guess maybe because we haven't had that to go to the Avengers, for example, where we had them building up and then coming together as a team, and then when they break up you're like, oh no, the Avengers are broken up, whereas this you're just like, okay, that's cool. You guys want to break up, fine. Because even Ajax was like that. She's like, yeah, we did, the mission's over, just go, everyone chill out.
Yeah, chill out till it's time to go home.
Yeah. But here was, I guess, one thing I was unsure of, or just like, I don't know why that was written this way. Ajax is dead, Selma Hayek is dead, and Cersei becomes the leader of the group, and then
she gets the weird little thing in her chest. Yeah,
she gets the orb of communication, and she communicates with the Eternal, or the Celestial, sorry, to be like, hey, Ajax dead, the Deviants are back, but one's getting smarter. It's like everything's kind of weird, and then he's like, don't worry, the mission's gonna wrap up, and then he tells her the whole plan, which I guess it's for the audience. Of course, we're learning the plan. So he says how he created the Deviants to help kill the Predators so intelligent life could grow on the planets. And then the Eternals are there to kill the Deviants so that because the Deviants became Predators, so it stops that. Cool. And then he tells her, this has happened millions of times before. The planet's going to explode. Everyone's going to die. And my thing was, it's like, why would he tell her this knowing that he created her and the Eternals? And this has never happened before where she cares about the planet, because he says specifically, because I just rewatched it earlier today, how he created them to be emotionless. They're not supposed to feel anything.
Okay.
But in the movie, we clearly see them all have feelings.
Yeah. Here's my thoughts on this.
Yeah.
One is that maybe, they didn't care about any other races except for humanity. Like maybe she just didn't give a shit about the Star-Lords or that's not a race, that's one person.
But yeah, alien race X, let's say.
Yeah, maybe she just didn't give a shit about them, but she likes people for whatever reason, because they look like her or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then two, because I know like Peter and Tony brought this up too, where they're like, wouldn't he know from like her memories what kind of person she is? But
that's what my thought was. Yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of Eternals. It's not just that group, right? There's other ones because we meet one at the end.
Yes.
In the post-credit scenes, Harry Styles of One Direction is also an Eternal. So I'm like, maybe he just like didn't review hers. Maybe he thought he did.
Yeah, or maybe he doesn't review them because like he says, he's like, oh, I just reset your memories and I store them here. So he might not even look at them. He's just like, yeah, reset memories, cool. Right?
Yeah, he likes doing crossword puzzles. He doesn't have time for this shit.
Yeah, that was my initial thing that I was like, oh, when he created them, he would know how they feel and react. But then I was like, oh no, I'm pretty sure he says he made them to be emotionless, which he does. So it's like maybe he just didn't anticipate them living for 7,000 years with people they would start to care.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Also, like, maybe just like the sex bots uprising that I fear, maybe that happened.
Fair enough.
They developed their own consciousness.
Anyway, it was sort of muddled.
Shut up, Devon.
No, I agree, because it's like I said, like they did clearly develop consciousness. They all have feelings. Sprite's jealous. Icarus, loves Cersei, and it's like if he didn't program that in, but it sort of seemed like he did, because when he first wakes up, but then he's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And then just like in Babylon, he's like, "I'm with you, Cersei," right? So
yeah.
It just seemed like it seemed a little muddled there, but again, I did like the World Forge and all its look and everything like that. That stuff was all pretty cool to me anyway.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a thing.
Sure, bring it up. What do you got?
I don't understand, spoilers, why Icarus flew into the sun at the end.
Well, the only thing I can think of.
He just really liked that story about himself.
Yeah, that Sprite made up.
Yeah.
No, I think the only thing, because he said several times throughout the movie that he was like, no, I'm glad the mission's going to happen and the planet's going to explode and we're all going to die. So, he was just probably sick of it. And he's just like, well, I'm out.
But he just seemed so melodramatic. Like, I'm going to fly into the sun, guys.
Well, maybe also
do what I said.
I think it's unexplained, but in the Neil Gaiman version of the Eternals, which I've read, Icarus, he's like basically almost unkillable.
Okay.
So maybe flying into the sun is one of the only ways he knows he can die, essentially.
Well, I still thought it was stupid and melodramatic.
Sure. I mean,
I wanted to be the leader, guys. I'm going to fly in the sun unless you make me the leader. It's like, calm down, Rob Stark. Go home.
Yeah. Go into the sun.
Come fly into the sun. I'll show you. Mom won't buy me a PlayStation.
No, it's supposed to invoke all sorts of emotions, Devon.
It invoked the emotion of annoyance.
Fair enough. And I think one of the other things as well that could be considered weak is that, like, at the end, Thena is also fighting the Deviant, but the Deviant, like, that was evolving doesn't really come into play with, like, the final battle, in a sense.
Yeah, it seemed a little unfinished.
Mm-hmm. He just shows up and then he's like, yeah, I'm going to take you down. And it's like, yeah, but there's this whole planet destruction thing happening, so, like, we don't really care about you anymore, Deviant guy.
They could have left that out.
Possibly. I don't know. It's one of those things.
They could have just let him go. Like, he just sneaks off. Maybe he flew into the sun with Icarus.
Yeah. No, he doesn't.
Maybe Icarus could have done something useful. He just gathers up all the leftover deviants and flies into the sun with them.
Yeah. I mean, he could have taken him into the sun, essentially. Yeah. That could have been interesting.
Be like, we're the same. And the dude's like, please let me go. I have a family.
Apparently, Angelina Jolie was into the role because she thought it was going to be just more of a cameo role and didn't realize it was like a larger part of the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, again, this is IMDb trivia, so it could be unsubstantiated, let's say. But
I liked her in it. She looks good for whatever age she is.
Sure, and the costume was really great, and I liked her weaponry and everything. Again, I don't know. There was a lot to like in it. Structural issues, sure. Maybe semi-weak story, but I still enjoyed it.
I said she looked good, and what I meant to say she does look good, but I meant to say she looks strong. She looks like she would be a good Athena.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so overall, pretty good. We both recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely thought it was worth the watch. The only thing I thought there was going to be an opportunity for them to kind of start a new continuity, because even the producers like Feige and then they're like, yeah, it's a good transition to like our next phase, and then they still kind of talked previous Marvel project stuff, and I was like, no, just do your own thing. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Devon wants to move on.
We gotta move on. There's lasagna in the oven. Um,
Hawkeye.
Hawkeye. What'd you think of the show? 6 episodes. Set at Christmas time in New York City.
Disney Plus.
Disney Plus. Buzzwords.
Keywords. I actually, I don't know. It's hard to say, but I overall did enjoy it. But it seemed disjointed in some areas. But I did like Hawkeye, both of them, and I liked Echo, and I liked a lot about it, and I liked a lot of the trick arrow usage and everything. Yelena shows up, which I know was a favorite of yours as well. So yeah, I overall did enjoy it. I wonder if it would be like I didn't watch it back to back to back. Maybe that would change it for me.
I watched it 1 week at a time.
Yeah, me too.
I enjoyed it. It wasn't the best Marvel show in the whole world, but it wasn't a bad show. I kind of find the actress that plays Kate Bishop annoying. That's just personal preference. I don't know her. She's probably lovely. But I find that like when she, and I've said this before, but when she acts, she seems like she's acting sarcastically, and it really just kind of bugs me.
I also don't know. I mean, I didn't find that about her performance, but we have differing opinions on that. I found that more with Vera Farmiga, who plays her mom.
Yeah, her mom was kind of weird in it too.
Yeah. But it could be because
was like, I don't know how I feel about Kingpin just showing up in it, and I don't know how I feel about Daredevil just showing up in it.
Yeah, I liked it. I wasn't sure if he was going to show up or not because Hawkeye mentions him a couple times, and then even when they show the scene with Ronan killing the guys, and it was like Fat Man Otto, and I was like, okay, that's a nice nod to the Kingpin. And then I think I had saw a post or something like that, like like blah blah blah, something Vinny D'Onofrio, and I was like, oh, he is in this, and I was like, that's interesting.
I hate it. Like I didn't finish watching Daredevil because I just hated his performance as Kingpin.
Yeah, I've only seen the first season of the Daredevil.
I've seen like 2 episodes, and then I was like, I'm not watching this.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it was fine, but then also we had enough villains and antagonists anyway that we didn't really need him to show up. Because then, when he has that confrontation at the end with Kate, and she manages to like succeed and win, and it's like, no, the Kingpin would have just wrecked the floor with her.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I'm not really a fan of Kingpin as a villain in general. I'm like, nah, whatever.
I don't know. I mean, he's a good antagonist for a lot of storylines in New York because he can just be so ahead of the schemes and everything. And that's the comic portrayal, right? Is he's usually always got, plans within plans within plans. And so he's many steps ahead, usually. Yeah.
Did enjoy Hawkeye, Clint Barton, his interaction with the LARPers, and I'm glad they showed up more than once. It made me really happy.
Yeah, it was weird though as well when you think about it, that it's like the LARPer who took the Ronin costume, he took a costume from an arson scene, and it's like, what? And then at the end they get the other LARPer to take evidence from like police, and it's like, those are crimes.
Listen, Dan, I don't know if you know this, but LARPers, they don't give any fucks.
I mean, I guess. Anyway, I just thought that was a lot. But you are right. The scene with them were fun, and at the end, how they're helping out and stuff like that, fun.
Yeah, it's just fun. It's fun to watch grown-ups dress up like elves and help in a crime. That's fun.
Yeah, fair enough.
To me, anyways.
And I also liked with Clint Barton how basically how his sound, like his hearing was going, so you need a hearing aid from all of the adventuring, and and that played a major part with the
Echo.
Well, it's Echo, but what's Maya? That was her name as well, because she's deaf and stuff like that. So yeah, and I liked those scenes where he would take out the earpiece so then he couldn't hear, and the sound was just affected, and the way they did it in the show, I liked it.
I also like that they said that there was a Broadway production of The Avengers.
Yeah.
Because Broadway would do something stupid like that and it would be sold out.
Well, and I don't know, did you watch all the way to the end of the last episode? They actually show like a ton of the actual musical.
I sure did.
Yeah. And it's funny watching that, how like when the scene at the beginning when Clint's there and then he just leaves because he's just like, it's like, yeah, I would leave too.
Yeah, because somebody made a musical out of your trauma.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, I wrote you this really like this really upbeat number about your mom dying of cancer.
Well, and especially the part he leaves, it's like the song's all upbeat about the team and about Black Widow, of course. And he's like, I was there when she died, which comes into play with the Elena later. And he's like, yeah, he's not cool with it.
Elena has so much charisma. I love every moment she's on screen. And even though I didn't like the actress that played Kate Bishop, I would watch a show about them being best friends.
Yeah, I did like how she has to work it out there because she's in there and she's like, oh, and then she's like, yeah, if I wanted you dead, I would have killed you already.
Yeah.
Like,
and
before
you
walked in the door.
Their little fight scene during the gala was pretty great too, when they're like going through different offices and stuff.
Well, and even just when she first gets in the elevator and then it's like, you're like, yeah, you'd hit all those buttons. She's like, no, just smacking her hand.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
Yeah, and again, they got Florence Pugh to come back for that, which was nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was just funny the whole time as well, like where the way it was shot and presented with Tony Dalton, Jack, who was Eleanor's fiance. Like everything he's done, he does throughout the show is portrayed as like nefarious, and then at the end he's just like, no, he was just like himbo guy, basically.
Yeah, he's just a himbo the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was pretty great in it too.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they'll make him an Avenger because he becomes one in the comics.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, and he marries Mantis.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Who knows what they'll do?
Sure. I mean, this is something like I've mentioned before because I don't read a lot of the comics and stuff like that. That whatever they do, I probably don't know. So I'm just like, oh, whatever.
I don't really read the comics either, but I do Google stuff because I'm like, is that a character or is this just a weird thing that they're doing?
Yeah, like a one-off.
Yeah, but no, it's a character.
Oh, cool.
So I'm assuming they're going to make the new Avengers and then Black Knight, Kit Harington, and this dude will be in it.
Nice.
He's like called like the sword guy or something stupid.
Sure. I mean, he has his skills with the sword.
Swords.
Yeah.
I hope he just becomes a LARPer though. That would also be great.
Yeah.
And then I want a whole ass fucking Marvel show about him being a LARPer.
Fair enough.
Doing crimes with the LARP crew.
Yeah. Doing crimes and then stopping crimes. We're just doing whatever. Yeah.
Doing little crimes against bad people.
Right.
Stopping big crimes against nice people.
There you go. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was interesting. They spent about $150 million on it for the 6th episode. Yeah, and there's a duo team of Bert and Bertie, who were the main directors, and Reese Thomas, as well, was listed. I don't know. I don't really have anything too negative to say. I overall did enjoy it. Like you said, it was a little weaker, I think, comparatively to something like WandaVision or Loki and stuff like that. But overall, I thought it was had some good fun, some good character intro stuff, and I don't know. We'll see how it continues into the future. I did like some stuff with Clint Barton too, talking with Kate, how because she idolizes him, and he's like, no, I'd spent my life in the shadows, like not being idolized. That's the whole point. Is like, I'm not a good guy. Right?
Yeah.
He's like, I was like an assassin and stuff like that, right? Like,
I mean, yeah, I think it was a good show. It wasn't a great show, but it was a good show.
Cool. Yeah.
Shall we move on to The Man Made of Spiders?
Yeah, I think that's the one you were most kind of hyped to talk about.
It was. Aren't you hyped?
I was totally hyped. I was so
Did
glad
you
I was
hate
able
the
to see
movie,
it.
Dan? Do you hate
Absolutely
Spider-Man?
not. Spider-Man No Way Home was excellent. It lived up 100% to the hype.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed it. All of the Spider-Men come back and it's so great.
Yeah, that was really great.
Yeah, I want to watch 100 movies about multiple Spider-Man fighting people, but like together as a team.
Well, I think Into the Spider-Verse cursed us / blessed us with that happening for the next 10 decades of Marvel or Spider-Man movies.
Yes. I'm okay with it because it's so much fun. And it was so nice to see Tobey Maguire, because I haven't seen him in a movie since like Spider-Man, and he just is so charming. I thought he looked really good in this.
Yeah, him and Andrew Garfield were both so great, and Tom Holland, of course, also great. And yeah, it was really nice to see them, and I really liked their interaction together. I liked a lot of the hints of their time as Spider-Man past the movies, essentially, like the stuff Andrew Garfield was talking about how, he got dark and started not pulling his punches and stuff like that. And yeah, just like a lot of their advice and everything, them talking about their back issues and stuff like that. Right?
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, so good to see that kind of interaction between the three of them.
Yeah, it was really well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was interesting. It's directed by John Watts, who actually directed all three of the Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland.
And, nice.
Yeah, he was only signed on to do the two, and so he had to kind of renegotiate to do this third one, which I'll talk a bit about later. But it was written by Chris McKenna and Eric Summers, and they spent about $200 million on it. And so far, as of recording, it's made approximately $1.69 billion.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it had done that well.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, even though, I forgot to mention for Eternals, it made approximately 402 box office, so not as good as Shang-Chi, but it's like, that was like November, December pandemic time, or this one came out in December, so it's like, people wanted to go back.
Yeah, they were ready.
Most of the cast is all back from the previous ones, Zendaya, Jacob Batalon, Jon Favreau is in there, and then all of the villains that they brought back was great. You got Jamie Foxx, Willem Dafoe, Alfred Molina, Thomas Hayden Church, Rhys Ifans, Benedict Cumberbatch in there. Cumberbatch, sorry, not Patch. As Doctor Strange, of course, playing a major part in the movie as well. Marissa Tomei. And J.K. Simmons coming back for J. Jonah Jameson. Apparently, when they re-asked him to do it again, he was 100% on board. They were like, there was no question. They were kind of would you be willing to do it? And he's like, 100%.
I love that they made him like an Alex Jones-esque character too.
Yeah, and I think that was also something that J.K. Simmons was wanting to do with the character. He's like, I wanted to modernize it into, from papers to more current medias, which would be, like YouTube videos, podcasts, and that kind of stuff.
Was it you that was telling me that Alex Jones was really upset about it?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was like, they made me a villain in the movie, and it's like, wow, that's if you feel that.
Yeah. It was just you being you, buddy.
Yeah. But I was really surprised, spoilers, that they killed Marissa Tomei.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. That was not a direction I was considering. And then it's so brutal is because in that scene, he doesn't even get time to deal or mourn with it because the cops all show up and start shooting at him and he's got to take off.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's harsh.
I have read, I don't know if you've heard anything because who knows, it was written on the internet, might not be true. But is this the last time Tom Holland is playing Spider-Man?
I also don't know the answer to that question because, like you said, there's been all sorts of talk of this and that and here and there. I could see it being a cap of a trilogy, and maybe he might show up, if there's, say, the next Avengers situation, but I don't think there is any more Avengers. They're trying to rebuild what they're going to do next, so who knows? Maybe because of the successes of it, and I honestly didn't see Venom Let There Be Carnage, but maybe they could finally build towards a Venom v. Spider-Man movie.
Oh, that would be
Finally.
fun.
Yeah, like, and because there was the hint of that in the post-credit sequence where some of the symbiote got left in this universe, right? So
Hmm.
that could potentially be something they could do. I honestly don't know the answer to that question.
I would enjoy it.
Sure. I mean, like, it's not that he's not gone wrong the entire time. I think it'd be interesting though, because it's the movie ends in like a clean slate for Spider-Man, right? He
Yeah.
does the responsible thing, and he realizes he's a danger to his friends, and makes the ultimate sacrifice to give up, Ned and MJ, and live on his own and start again. Mary, not MJ. I was gonna say Marissa Tomei. May Parker is dead.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange spell erased everyone's memories. No one knows he's Spider-Man anymore. Were they to do another one, yeah, it's like a clean slate, right?
Hmm. I liked Doctor Strange in it too. He's kind of an asshole.
Yeah, well, he was in his movie too.
I know, but he's still an asshole, and I like that.
Sure. Well, and
It's
it was
nice to have heroes that aren't really heroic.
Yeah, and he's not perfect. He's always been kind of written that way, where he's just like he's an arrogant ass doing magic.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, and I also liked. Apparently, this movie was actually, or Multiverse of Madness was supposed to come out before this movie.
Oh, it makes way more sense if it comes out after, though.
Well, this movie was rewritten then because of that. Because Strange has a few lines about how he's like, we don't fully understand the multiverse and like what I'm trying to do here and how the spell screwed up and all that kind of stuff like that. So yeah, like some of that stuff was recalibrated or rejiggered for the different release schedule.
Oh, well, I like it the way they did it.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm really looking forward to the Multiverse of Madness. I still maintain that Doctor Strange is one of the best Marvel movies. I know a lot of people don't feel that way. Every time I see a fucking list of the best Marvel movies, it's like in the bottom 3.
Really?
I don't understand that at all because it's in my top 3.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Like,
it's weird, right?
I
Like
mean,
people rate Ant-Man and the Wasp above Doctor Strange, and I don't understand why.
Well, I think, like many people have pointed out, maybe they're just sick of like the origin story type thing. And it did have the whole Tilda Swinton controversy, which is not really a controversy, but it kind of is, I guess. So
Okay, but like structurally, it's a better movie. It's written better, it's got better visuals, and it's like a more interesting storyline. I don't know. To me, anyways, it's one of the better Marvel movies.
yeah, I really like it as well. I have, of course, a few qualms with it, but overall, I very much enjoy it. But
What's your qualms?
we're not talking Doctor Strange. I think we did an episode about it, probably.
Did it make you want to like do Tai Chi and mushrooms?
Of course. No, I was gonna say one thing I really liked in this movie is that they bring in all these villains from basically the moments before they died, which I thought was very interesting, and how Tom Holland is like, no, we should try to help them, not just send them back to their deaths. And I was like, it was just an interesting jumping for the story. Like, it was a direction I wasn't expecting, essentially. Like, I was just expecting the villains to just show up and all just be like, we're here to fight Spider-Man, like, caricature villains, but they were like, no.
I'm evil. Yeah.
Yeah, and the only one who dips into that, though, is Willem Dafoe / the Green Goblin, which was great, and his performance was awesome.
Totally.
And, it all makes sense. But yeah, like Peters helps Doc Ock out, and then he joins his side, and then the rest are kind of like, nah, I'm not down with this help, and then they're just like, we're going off to be villains again. Right?
Yeah, it was I liked that too. It's fun to see writers of movies and I guess producers and whatever decide to approach things in a different way.
Yeah, that was just, like I said, a direction I wasn't anticipating with the movie, and it was really good. It really worked well, and it kind of, you could see his morals coming from Aunt May, and because she's like trying to help people and trying to help the Green Goblin and everything like that. So yeah, I really liked it. He's, the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Totally.
And then the fight between him and the Green Goblin in the apartment complex was really cool. And
I was just like, ooh, cringing the whole time. I'm like, he's gonna get so hurt.
yeah, and like I said, it goes back to what I was saying with Andrew Garfield, talking about how, like, he pulls his punches, and when he was like beating on the Green Goblin, they were both not holding back their punches and just smashing through walls and the floorings, and I was like, yeah, that's some good destruction there.
Totally.
And it was like destruction that just kind of worked for the scene and stuff like that. It wasn't, because normally with Spider-Man, we don't really see that kind of destruction going on.
Yeah. Plus, I really enjoyed the scene where Ned and MJ find the other two Spider-Men.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a cozy little, just the two of them being curious about each other, and like grandma getting, like, kind of being curious about, I don't know. It was a fun little moment.
Sure. Yeah, and that's
the crying from May dying.
And that's just it. It's like, the action and stuff like that. It doesn't matter if you don't care or, want to find out about the characters and stuff like that. So yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, I think, like I was saying, that the interaction between them was a lot of fun. Well, and it was interesting as well, again, unexpected, that Mary Jane and Ned, had as big of a role as they did. Like, they sort of do in both the other two. I'm trying to think. Yeah. Far From Home, definitely. And then, or he was guy in the chair in the first one, not as much with MJ, because it had tunes. MJ wasn't really in the movie, that one, but in the second one she was, and in this one, she was. So super good, really well done. I don't know, I don't really have much more to say, but like the effects for, like, because in this one Doc Ock's tentacles are all CG compared to puppetry like they were in Spider-Man 2, but they looked great.
They looked right? Great.
Yeah.
The Doc Ock fight on the freeway was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, I always like Doc Ock's tentacles.
I like that actor too that plays Doc Ock.
Alfred Molina.
Yeah, I don't know. He's really good at saying Peter. Peter.
Apparently he was one of the few, I was reading through like some of the interviews with actors, and he was just like, Jamie Foxx was like, yeah, like really wanted to get back and being Electro and stuff like that. And Alfred Molina was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it, whatever. Like, he's just like, it's a job to him.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. And apparently, like, Willem Dafoe was like, I'll do it if I can come back and do almost all of my own stunts. He's like, I don't want to be like CG guy fighting kind of thing.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, so he did as much as he was probably allowed to or could do.
As much as the insurance company would let him.
Like, basically, yeah. Because again, he's an older man as well.
Mm-hmm.
But
he's
yeah, I don't know.
He's good at making his face look evil, hey?
Well, and that was always my main problem with Spider-Man 1, is that you cast Willem Dafoe, who has this amazing face, and then you cover him in that helmet.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that, which this movie didn't do. So it was like, yeah, that's great. Because, yeah, like you said, he can just, the way he switches from like, oh, I'm just an old man, to like menacing goblin, you're like, oh no, it's bad.
Yep.
What about for yourself? Anything negative or something that really stood out from you aside from the NJ Ned Peter scene?
I have no negatives to say about it.
Fair enough.
I enjoyed all of it. It was really fun to watch. I think it was the most fun, like, as heavy as some of the sad parts were, it was still one of the most fun Spider-Man movies I've ever seen, because I just like spider guys working together. I really appreciate, and I've mentioned this before, but I really appreciate and enjoy when there's a team of heroes and they're not just kind of independently fighting their own fights, when they like work as a team, and like you see that like in the Avengers 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.
Sure. Oh, sorry.
I liked that a lot, and this movie had that.
Yeah, and I liked how when they first were fighting together, because they were like, here's the plan, and then they're like all just doing their own thing, and they're like, wait, I've never worked with a team before. Yeah.
I did also enjoy when like Tom Holland's like, well, what about the Avengers? And they're like, what are the Avengers?
Yeah, that was great. He's like, look, I fought Thanos in space. It's a thing. And they're like, you've been to space? But yeah, like that was fun. And then yeah, how he took charge essentially of the Spider-Mans to be like, okay, here's what we're doing. That's one of the things that has been cool, even from the first Avengers, of course, as well. Like, yeah, when the powers, when they work together and like, use, yeah, like when you see Captain America reflect Iron Man's beam to like catch more bad guys, you're like, that's awesome.
Yeah, or even just when like in the first Avengers movie, when Captain America's like, you go do a perimeter, you go do this, you go do that. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Show me how you get organized. Show me how you lead this team.
Yeah. Like, yes, you have godlike powers, but make it work.
You've godlike powers, but can you do project management? Oh, you can. This is great.
That's his power, project management.
Yeah. Hey, it's an important power.
I'm not dissing it. Yeah, and then I really liked, of course, at the end, they're curing the bad guys, helping them out. Could be argued either way, but Tom Holland really is going to go out for vengeance against the Green Goblin for killing May, even though both Spider-Men are like, hey, don't do it, it's bad news. So he was on the edge there, and then Tobey Maguire steps in, prevents him from crossing the line, as it were. So
I think Tobey Maguire got more attractive as he got older. Because I don't remember him being attractive in the first two movies, but I thought he was really attractive in this one. Yeah, but maybe it's because I'm old now.
Well, I would say his kind of his facial structure and everything is like it's slimmed down, like underneath his like maybe he lost weight or something. Like, I don't know as well, like because maybe he wasn't as jacked for this role like where he was previously.
Well, maybe.
So maybe that just affected
his face. That's what happened.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Yeah, like his face just looked differently, and I think it really worked better in this movie.
Mm-hmm. He might have even have like put on weight. Like maybe he like filled out his face a bit, or I don't know. It's not very nice of me to talk about him this way, I guess.
No,
but I thought he was really attractive in it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've mentioned probably before, but like him as Spider-Man, I never liked his casting as them as high school students because he was an older guy. He was like 24 or whatever when they made the movies, and I'm sure Andrew Garfield is the same situation, but he looks younger. Tom Holland looks younger as well, so he works in that age bracket. But I was like, if you're gonna do Tobey Maguire, make him a college student. That makes sense, all right?
Yeah, easy fix there.
Yeah, so I don't know. I never really liked that aspect, but in this, like you said, it worked because he was the more experienced age Spider-Man, and he's like, hey, I've been doing this a long time, and so yeah, it felt like he was imparting the wisdom more, and it just worked really well.
I never saw the Andrew Garfield Spider-Mans.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like, just from an outside point of view, I always thought he looked too cool to be Peter Parker. But he's actually very dorky as Peter Parker, and it worked for me. Now I kind of want to go watch those ones.
Well, and I remember when we did an episode of, I think it was for either No Way Home or Far From Home. Wait, this is No Way Home. Homecoming or Far From Home. But I watched them all. And like I think at the time I said, I liked his Spider-Man the most.
But not as Peter Parker.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, because I really liked it because of his body type. He looked the lank, and he had a lot of the quips even before more of the Marvel quippiness and stuff like that. So yeah, I really liked his Spider-Man a lot.
You know what I really liked him in? BoJack.
Doesn't he get horribly he dies, doesn't he?
He dies. He falls into the hole that's the January Halloween store.
Halloween store, yeah. I was gonna say, doesn't he get horribly maimed, or no, he just dies.
Dies.
Yeah. I don't really have anything negative, I think, about this movie either, because it was very enjoyable and great effects and great Spider-Manning and great performances in simple roles. Like even Jamie Foxx, like how many lines does he say? But I dig it every time he's saying them. And him and Thomas Hayden Church, when they have that discussion about falling into a pit, he's just like, damn, gotta watch where you're falling. It was great. So yeah, I also don't really have anything negative going on.
So basically, we recommend all 4 of the Marvel properties we've just spoke of.
Yes. Oh, this is something I was going to mention here. Sorry. So this movie, the production was sort of started, and do you remember? I'm sure you remember when Disney and Sony had the issues about Spider-Man licensing, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody knows or if you even know that basically what it is that Sony was only getting 5% of the film profits and they wanted more.
Okay.
And because it was basically like a licensing, like they were allowing Spider-Man to be in the movies for 5% of the profits. But I don't know if they were putting up any money. And that was what Disney was saying was like, look, that's cool. You're licensing Spider-Man to us and you're getting a cut, but we're paying for everything.
Oh,
And
I see.
that's what the breakup was about. And then, of course, Tom Holland, spoke to the head of Sony, spoke to Bob Iger and blah, blah, and then they worked out the deal. And then the new deal was, so probably, I guess, for this film and maybe going forward, was that Sony put up 25% of the money, but also got 25% of the profits.
Oh, okay.
Because there is still an issue with like licensing and stuff like that. Like that's all wrapped up and stuff like that around Spider-Man because of the movie deals and stuff. So anyway, so I don't know because I wasn't still sure about that, but that's what I've read from a few different sources. That's kind of what was going on there. And so who knows, back to what your question was, if they're going to make more.
Man, 25% of $1 billion doesn't sound bad.
No, it does not. Even 5% of $1 billion does not sound bad. Because even the director...
I'll take 5% of $1 billion, Sony.
Yeah. Well, because even the director was, after he did the other two, wasn't, like I said, on contract to do a third. He was signed on to do 2 movies, and he was getting offers to do other movies, and including other Marvel movies they wanted to do. So they were like, they basically had to come up with a new deal for him to work on this Spider-Man movie even. So anyway, because I know that there was fan backlash and etc., but it's like, yeah, they're both evil companies trying to make as much money as they can, right? Like,
wait, there was fan backlash?
Yeah, there was huge backlash against Sony for basically pulling Spider-Man from the MCU.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah. That's fair.
Yeah, because everyone was like, dude, this is one of the best representations and Kevin Feige's killing it, etc., and so forth. What are you doing?
Yeah.
So, yeah, they came back to the table, worked out a new deal. So that I just thought that was interesting that essentially I couldn't see, but I don't think that they were putting up any money before. It was more just like, we'll license them to you and we get a cut.
All right. Interesting.
But sorry to interrupt what you were saying before. I agree. I think all 4 properties have been worth the watch. I didn't hate anything.
It's hard to hate Marvel because even their bad is good.
Well, and it was interesting because, like you said, the Hawkeye was maybe not one of the best, but then I was looking at like critic ratings per episode, and they're still really high. So it's like
because it's like a competently made show. They understand how to write a script. They understand, like, they have competent actors who understand how to convey emotions. They know what beats they need to hit. They know how to make it bingeable by like ending on, a cliffhanger or whatever.
Yeah, like every episode.
Every episode, yeah. Like they know how to make competent TV, and they did.
Yeah, fair enough.
Is there anything else you wanted to talk about before I go?
Let's talk about some Spider-Man more, but no, but yeah, I think everything was great. I'm interested to see what happens with some of their new projects, and just like you said, what are they going to do in the future? I know they got a roadmap out. There's Blade and there's etc. coming, so we'll see. There's
an Echo show or movie coming.
Yeah, well, and similar to the Star Wars, I think, they announced like 20 shows, and I'm like, well, I'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, I think I was pleasantly surprised with the Shang-Chi. Eternals I enjoyed, and Spider-Man was, blew me away and how good it was. And the Hawkeye was an enjoyable watch.
Yep, I agree with that assessment.
I know I've talked way too much. I'm sorry.
No, you didn't. You're good. You're all good. You're all good, Dan.
Let's wrap up here.
All right. If you liked this episode, please share it with every single person on the planet Earth so that we can get lots of downloads, and then Squarespace will sponsor us and we can become shills and quit our job. Because we will. We're selling out at the first opportunity. What, you want us to endorse cigarettes? You got it. You can find us online at Tome of Uselessness on Instagram. You can also go to the website, tomeofuselessness.com, or you can send us an email and be like, that was a tasteless joke about cigarettes. tomeofuselessness@gmail.com. We also take requests for episodes, but we won't necessarily do what you request if we don't want to, because we are both busy and we just don't want to watch all of My Little Pony or whatever.
But yeah, we also questions or suggestions, and
you can tell us we're wrong and very stupid. Right?
Wow.
Or
maybe.
That we're right and very smart.
Yes.
Both of those are acceptable. And thank you very much for listening. And we hope that you are in good health and having a wonderful start to 2022. And we can't wait to share more episodes about Marvel movies with you.
Yeah, stay safe. Enjoy a lasagna.
Yay! Lasagna time!